Hello everybody, it's Sarah, and today I want to talk about a book that maybe is my favorite book so far of 2022, but it is definitely in my top 3 favorite books of 2022. There has never been a book that I have seen that is more hyped and that, in my opinion, deserves every single ounce of that hype. And the book I am talking about is, of course, Babel, or The Necessity of Violence, an arcane history of the Oxford Translators' Revolution. So, for those of you who know where I started with R.F. Kuang, you know what I mean when I say, wow, who'd have thought, who'd have thunk? Like, my most viewed video on this channel is my first round review of the Poppy War series, a video that I'm not necessarily all that happy with anymore because, well, I can't say how much I agree with the things I said in that video anymore because it's been, what, 4 years since I made that video. I have not read the Poppy War since. But also I find it important to a certain degree to still keep those videos online, even if my opinion has changed on them, just because, you know, people change, and I think it's necessary to see how they changed, and people's opinions change on books especially. As people change, they will view books differently. It's just natural. But anyway, that's not what we're here about. If you know where I started with R.F. Kuang, as I said, you will all be happy to see where I'm at now. I gave this book 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. It is a gorgeous book. It's amazing. I love it so much. It just... Okay, we won't start with the gushing yet. We will not start with the gushing yet. We will go through the usual steps. First of all, this is gonna be a spoiler-free review, so obviously you're welcome to stay even if you have not read this book yet. And as always, I will start with a summary, and then I will probably not do my negative thoughts, positive thoughts, because, to be honest, don't really have that much negative or anything negative to say about this book, and I feel like just gushing, so that's what we're gonna do today. But first I will have to change the battery on my camera, so see you in a bit. I am back, so let's start with the summary of this book. It's kind of hard to talk about the summary of this book because what this book is in its very core is it's philosophizing, it's talking about translation, and it's talking about translation and academia and how both of those things intersect with colonialism and are influenced by colonialism. And I actually, when I read this book, I got the same vibes from it that I got from Inkheart. Not because the stories are so similar, not because the characters are similar, not because the writing style is similar. I don't even know if I could say the writing style is similar because one is written in German, the other is written in English. The reason that I have for why I got the same vibes from both of these books is that both of these books feel like the story is important, yes, and the story is good, but the story is ultimately an excuse to just pontificate, is that the right word? To just, you know, monologue on specific topics. In Inkheart, it's stories in general. It's how stories change us. It's how stories influence us. It's the importance of stories in our lives, the importance of books in our lives, and in this case, it's colonialism, translation, and academia. So to be honest, ultimately I don't really feel like I need to give you any more of a synopsis. I will do so anyway. In the story we follow Robin, who was orphaned during the cholera in Canton, and he is taken in by an Oxford professor. And while he is with that professor, he learns Greek, he learns Latin, he continues speaking Mandarin, less so his mother language Cantonese, and he just, you know, he grows up and he learns how to translate. And once he's old enough, he is sent to Oxford, he is sent to Babel, to the Translation Institute in Oxford, and there he just meets new people. He meets new people who have very similar stories to him. He also learns how much he is an outsider, and he learns about colonialism. That's really at the center of it, and that's as much as I can say about the story, to be honest. That's as much as I want to say about the story. And yeah, things start going wrong at some point, as they so often do in books, don't they? So yeah, let's talk about my thoughts on this. Let's start gushing about this. So the first reason why I want to gush about this is really what I just said, in how this reminded me of Inkheart. That, like, I think it's a genuinely well-written book. It's a well-written story. It's got a good writing style. It has beautiful parts to it. But I think one of the reasons why I love this book so much is because it's not just like Inkheart in terms of like how it's set up, in a way, and how it's set up that it really at the center has a topic, has a theme, and everything else is just built around this theme, around this topic. The reason why it also reminded me so much of Inkheart is that it just feels like the Inkheart for the person that I am currently and that I am today. Inkheart, for me, I have talked about this before, was an incredibly formative and incredibly important book. It's the book that I give the credit to when I talk about why I love reading now, why I love books now. And for me, this, I mean, it won't get the credit of making me think about, you know, translations or colonialism or whatever, because obviously I do that already. I mean, translations less, although also just as someone, I think generally as someone who reads mostly not in my mother language, not in my native language, I just think a lot about translations, and I just think a lot about how translations can be done. It's just something that comes naturally to a certain degree to someone who's very bilingual, I believe. So yeah, I just, you know, have to do with translations a lot in my life. That's why a lot of times when I talk, I mostly talk, you know, in Denglish, so a mixture between German and English, because sometimes the German word fits better for what I want to say, and sometimes the English word fits better for what I say, and I just use whichever word fits best. Bilingual problems, I guess. Aside from that, so it's not necessarily a book that I will give credit in terms of, you know, sparking any new interests within me, but at the same time it just fits perfectly within my interests right now. It fits perfectly with what I'm doing right now in terms of uni, in terms of studying, in terms of where I want to go job-wise. It fits really well with the person I am right now, and so I think that's part of the reason why I love this book so much. And I just wanted to start this gush out with that, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt, I guess. Although I still do think that also objectively, quote unquote, this is a great book. Like, it deserves all the hype. But the reason why it didn't disappoint me, why it really did live up with the hype, are also just personal reasons. So aside from that, let's start with the thing where I think maybe this book might not be for everyone, and that is the pages upon pages of translation theory. Like, this book can almost double as an academic work. It can almost double as a nonfiction. There's a lot of theory on languages, on translations, on colonialism, on academia, that's just delivered in a very expository, like, it's delivered as exposition a lot of times. And I really enjoy it because I'm really interested in that. There's also a lot of footnotes on translations and stuff, and historical stuff. Again, I really enjoy it because it's something that interests me a lot. But it also means that it takes time for the story to kind of pick up its pace and pick up speed. And the big part of the story is basically just the day-to-day lives of Robin and his friends. And even those day-to-day lives, a lot of times are more told and not shown, which I really enjoyed the way it was done. It's kind of the perfect example why, you know, a lot of the general things that you're supposed to do when writing, they're not always the case, because a lot of times you say show not tell. Well, here telling works really well, because a lot of the times chapters start with just, you know, Robin generally telling us what he has been up to in the past few weeks or so, maybe even months, and then you get examples shown of specific scenes, how that happened, what happened there. But as I said, there's still a lot of telling, not showing, so, you know, if that's not your type of writing style, don't pick up this book. I really loved it here. I think it didn't really matter to me, but also I know that because this was the buddy read for September for my book club, I know that there were some people who were like, okay, I had a hard time connecting to the characters in this story, and I think that might be one of the reasons why some people might have had a harder time connecting to the characters. I didn't. I love the characters, but, you know, it's something that's happening in this book. Aside from that, the writing, I think R.F. Kuang improved so much with the writing. Like, one of my problems within the Poppy War series, especially the first two books, was also that I just wasn't too into R.F. Kuang's writing style. But with her, you could really tell how much she improved with each book. I think I already said that in my review of The Burning God. And here, once again, you could really tell. And there's just quotes in this book that hit so hard. Like, I regret so much that I didn't read and annotate this right away. And I definitely am going to have to reread this to annotate it, because oh my fucking god, like, the quotes, the language, the points she made are so good. They are just so good. Then in terms of the footnotes, I really enjoyed the footnotes. I thought they really helped the story for me. I thought also that there weren't too many footnotes. Like, a lot of books that have footnotes have them like on every page, and every few pages. But in this book, for a book with footnotes, they're actually quite scarce. And mostly they just are really, really insightful. They also add a lot in terms of world building, because this is an alternate history story. So within this world you have silver, and with silver and translation you kind of can do magic. It's kind of hard to explain what exactly is going on. Basically, you write two words on a bar of silver, and the two words are a translation of each other, but through the thing that's like missing in the translation, because obviously a translation is never 100%, but through this like kind of, you know, slight difference between the two words in their meanings, you can do magic. That's how the magic works within the story, and because of that, things within the history of this world are slightly different than within our history. I actually also really appreciated that R.F. Kuang added notes at the beginning in terms of how the history is different and why she changed some things and why she kept some things the same. Although I don't think she should have needed to edit it, and we all know that she needed to edit it because she's an author of color. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that right now. I really loved how, you know, the world changed in this, although very interesting. It's just my personal thing, and also because I'm working at a money museum right now, I would have loved to learn more about how the money works within the story, because obviously silver is very important, but how does it, you know, how does it influence how money developed, and coins and paper money and so on? Because, you know, it's set right at the time when people started using paper money more commonly, and started, like, coins started to change from coins made of silver and gold to coins made from lesser metals. And yeah, it just I really want to know what's going on there. I mean, not that it needed to be added, because it wouldn't have changed anything in the story if I had known, but I want to know though. I want to know. Anyway, so I really loved how the history was changed there. Obviously, you still have colonialism because colonialism is at the center of this story. And that's also where the biggest strength of this story is. One of my criticism in the Poppy War was that R.F. Kuang sometimes lacks subtlety in how she talks about her themes. And a lot of times she will punch you in her face with what she says instead of, you know, letting the story speak for itself. However, funnily, even though she still did that in this book, I thought the punch to the face just really fit and was really necessary. Like, a lot of times she will have a scene and something happens and the characters feel uncomfortable because someone did a colonialism, and instead of letting the reader themselves, you know, come to terms with why the characters are feeling uncomfortable, R.F. Kuang will make a point and, you know, point the reader in the right direction, just add a sentence as to, you know, why exactly the characters are feeling uncomfortable. And I don't know, for some reason it just didn't bother me at all in this book. I thought it really fit well. I thought it fit perfectly. And then the last thing I'm gonna talk about is the characters. And first of all, oh my god, R.F. Kuang really is an author who just loves to put her characters through shit. Once again, the characters in this story just, yeah, they are not allowed to be happy throughout most of the story. I mean, they're quite happy at the beginning, aren't they? Yeah, but they still go through a lot of shit. No spoilers though. Also, there's specific characters where I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say without spoiling anything, where I'm just really happy where the characters go. Like, there's one character in specific where I did not like the character from the very beginning, and I thought the character would go in a different direction, but then I guess I read this book like I would have read a book by a white author. I don't know why. I don't know why I expected the character to go in a different direction, but I was really, really happy with what R.F. Kuang decided to do with this character. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Aside from that, the plot, yeah, as I said, the plot is mostly the vehicle for the message, and mostly the vehicle for the themes and the topics, for the colonialism, for the translation stuff. It's a vehicle to give the characters the ability to exposition dump about different things, which, again, I love it so much. Exposition dump has such a negative connotation. I feel like actually this book is the perfect example, once again, to just talk about how a lot of the rules of writing aren't actually rules, they're more suggestions, and if you know how to break those rules, go ahead and break them, because you will still have an amazing book, as is the case here. But yeah, aside from that, with the plot, there was very little plot throughout most of the book, and then it really picked up towards the end. There was one point where it was like a little bit too sudden, a little bit too much, where I didn't feel like I properly had time to, you know, digest what just happened. Although then again, I think the way it was done was in a very purposeful way, so maybe my emotions would have liked some time to deal with what had just happened, but in terms of a storytelling perspective, I think it's actually not that bad how fast it moved on. And yeah, I think that was it for this like messy as fuck gush once again. Like, yeah, you all know that once I love a book enough, I lose all capabilities of talking about it properly. So yeah, I guess that's my review for Babel. And with all of that said, if you have read this book, tell me in the comments down below what were your thoughts on it. If you haven't read this book, tell me in the comments down below if you still want to read it. after this mess of a gush. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media as well as to my book club are linked in the description box down below, so go and check those out. And with all of that said, I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!